I swear I was just trying to get a coffee and mind my business when I bumped into a pregnant woman on the sidewalk like a normal New York clumsy moment, right? But nope. The moment our shoulders collided, she latched onto my arm like a pit bull, her nails digging into my skin hard enough to draw blood. "Do you know whose baby I'm carrying?" she shrieked with this smug little smirk. "Daniel Carter's." "That's right, mister. Carter himself. This is his only child, his legacy. Can you handle that if something happens to this baby?" I blinked, unsure if I'd walked onto the set of a reality show or if this woman was seriously accusing me of harming her golden child. Before I could even respond, she added with faux elegance, "Daniel said he's marrying me as soon as the baby's born. You'd better learn how to grovel." I tilted my head and asked, "Daniel who?" Like I didn't already know the name that had just thrown my life into chaos. "Daniel Carter, the richest man in Riverdale," she said, flipping her hair like she was a celebrity. That's when my best friend since college looked at me, stunned, because Daniel Carter is, in fact, my husband. And he has a very private but very real medical diagnosis. He's infertile. He can't have children. That's not gossip, it's a fact I've known and protected for years. Mia narrowed her eyes at the woman, her voice sharp like a knife dipped in sarcasm. "So, what exactly are you saying? That your baby isn't Daniel's after all?" The woman's fake composure cracked. "What are you implying?" she barked. "You calling me a liar?" I stepped between them, trying to de-escalate before it became an all-out street brawl, but I was shaking. This was happening. Me husband had a mistress bold enough to confront me in public. "I thought Mr. Carter was married," I said softly. She snorted. "Oh, you mean the barren wife? So, what if he's married? A man like Daniel Carter deserves a child of his own. That woman can't give him that."
Mia s temper snapped.
"Do you even know who you're talking to?" She pointed at me. The woman gave me a once-over and laughed. "What, her? You're telling me this wrinkled nobody is somebody important?" Her mocking didn't last long. Her phone rang, and she immediately switched tones, answering it with syrupy sweetness. She turned on speaker like she wanted to show off. And then we heard his voice, Daniel's voice, soft, doting, unmistakable. "How was your shopping, babe?" My world tilted. There was no mistaking it. It was him. My husband. My Daniel. Talking to another woman like she was his everything. I felt my knees give out a little, and Mia rushed to steady me. The woman purred into the phone. "I'm okay. Just had a little scare." Two women bumped into me and made me feel awful. Daniel's voice immediately filled with concern. "Are you all right? Where are you?" "I'm coming to get you right now." The woman beamed with smug satisfaction. "They're still here," she cooed. "Want to talk to them?" I couldn't even process fast enough before she held the phone out to me. "My boyfriend wants a word with you," she said like she was queen of the universe. I took the phone mechanically. "Hello?" I asked. "This is Daniel Carter. My girlfriend is pregnant, and she's emotionally sensitive right now. I hope you'll be understanding. If you've been inconvenienced, I'll compensate you personally." His voice was calm, polite, and so unfamiliar. He spoke to me like I was a stranger. "Daniel," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Do you have anything to say to me?" There was a pause. Long enough for the other woman to sense something was wrong. She reached for the phone, but Mia held her off. On the line, I heard Daniel's breath catch. He'd recognized my voice. When he finally spoke again, his voice was different, controlled, detached. "Give her the phone back. We'll talk when you get home." That command tone he always used on me, as if I was one of his employees. But Mia wasn't having it. She exploded. "Are you kidding me right now, Daniel? Claire gave you 10 years of her life, her health, her youth, her loyalty, and you cheat on her like this? You were nothing when she met you." The woman squirmed, trying to pull away, but Mia caught her again. "And you little side piece, what happened to all that arrogance from 2 minutes ago? Cat got your tongue?" The woman panicked and cried into the phone. "Daniel, she's hurting me." A crowd had started gathering. Some people were filming. I heard Daniel's voice again, panicked but still cold. "Let her go." And then angrier, "Let her go." The way he said it felt like a slap. I felt something in me collapse. "Mia," I whispered, "let her go." Mia was reluctant, but she listened. You're really a piece of work, Daniel, she muttered as she stepped back. The pregnant woman Vanessa snatched the phone out of my hand. I'm fine, baby, she said sweetly. Just uncomfortable. He fussed over her through the phone, asking if she needed to go to the hospital. She didn't even glance at me as she walked away. And Daniel? He never asked me if I was okay. He never asked if I was hurt. I stood in that street, humiliated, heartbroken, and ignored. The man I had loved, trusted, and built a life with had chosen someone else and lied about everything. But what he didn't know yet was that I held a secret that would flip this entire story upside down. Because for all her flaunting and gloating, Vanessa Blake could not possibly be carrying Daniel Carter's child. Not unless God had performed a miracle. Because Daniel Carter is infertile. And I'm the only one who knows. By the time I got home, Daniel was already there, sitting on the couch surrounded by the thick, bitter haze of cigarette smoke like he was starring in his own noir drama. The air was so heavy with nicotine that I choked on my first breath through the door, but what suffocated me more was the sight of him acting like he had any right to mope after what I had just witnessed. I dropped my bag at my feet and stared him down. So, you haven't been coming home because of work? You've been playing house with a college girl? He didn't even flinch. I laughed bitterly. She looks like she's still in undergrad, Daniel. You knocked up a child. His expression was cold, indifferent like he'd been rehearsing this moment, waiting for me to bring it up. I tossed my purse onto the coffee table with a thud that echoed off the walls. Talk, I snapped. He finally moved, standing up so fast the couch shifted behind him. Claire, he said like he was doing me a favor by using my name. I've been wanting to end things for a while now. Don't make this uglier than it has to be. I blinked. You cheated on me, and you're telling me not to be dramatic? He walked to the table, grabbed his lighter, and lit another cigarette like he needed the flame to keep his composure. Look, I get it. You're hurt. But let's not pretend you were some saint either. I gave you a good life. You helped in the early years, sure, but I carried this company. I'm offering you the house, a good settlement, and get greedy. My brain couldn't even catch up with the audacity. You're talking about our marriage like it's a business deal, I said, stunned. You're seriously sitting here trying to negotiate a peaceful exit after I gave you everything? I've been with you since I was 18. When you had no thing, no money, no family, no future, I stuck with you. I helped you build everything. And now you're telling me I should feel lucky you're tossing me some spare change and real estate. He didn't even blink. What? You want me to get down on my knees and thank you for those college years?
He scoffed.
You negotiated deals, yeah, but let's not pretend you didn't do what you had to do. You think I don't know about Mr. Anderson? That hit like a punch to the gut. My heart dropped. What are you talking about? That night you drank too much. He took you back to the hotel. I picked you up the next morning. You reeked of gin and shame, he said, his words sharp and venomous. But I let it go. And then there was Mr. Harris. You think I didn't know? My hands trembled, blood draining from my face. There was nothing between me and either of them, I said through clenched teeth. Nothing. Mr. Harris drugged me. He tried to strip me. I fought him off. I blackmailed him with photos to protect myself. I never told you because I didn't want to drag you into it, not because I was guilty. Daniel's lip curled into something between disgust and triumph. So now you admit there was something. Convenient. Don't twist my words, I hissed. I didn't sleep with him. I barely got away from him. Oh, really? He said, stepping closer. Then explain why you never got pregnant. What kind of wife stays barren for a decade unless she's been around? The room spun. You know damn well I've wanted kids. We both did. Then why didn't it happen? He spat. Maybe because you've been with too many men. Too much damage down there. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. You want to know why we never had kids? I stepped forward, staring him dead in the eye. Because you're infertile, Daniel. You're the one who can't have children. His jaw twitched. What did you say? You heard me, I said, calm now, almost eerie. Remember when we went to get those fertility tests years ago? You were too busy to pick up the results, so I did. I saw the report. You're sterile. You can't father a child. I tore the paper up and never told you because I didn't want to crush your ego. He exploded. In 2 strides he was on me, his hand around my neck, pinning me against the bedroom wall. Say that again. I dare you. I choked, breath catching in my throat. His grip wasn't tight enough to kill me, but it was enough to terrify. And still I laughed. Go ahead, I rasped. Prove how much of a man you are. He let go with a shove and backed away like touching me had burned him. You think you're clever, don't you? Vanessa isn't like you.
She's pure.
She was a virgin when I met her. She's not even old enough to rent a car, I muttered, coughing. Congratulations, you've replaced your wife with a teenager. He ignored me, grabbing a manila envelope from the coffee table and shoving it in my face. You think this is about ego? This is about moving forward. Sign the divorce papers, Claire. I looked at the words printed in bold across the top. Divorce age tan. Something inside me broke. Not shattered. Not snapped. Just broke, clean and permanent. I didn't say a word. I didn't scream or throw anything. I just walked to the desk, picked up a pen, and signed my name. Well, he said after a beat, eyebrows raised. That was easier than I thought. He grinned like he'd won something. I'll transfer the money to your account by tomorrow. You'll have 20 million, the house, and your dignity, what's left of it. As he turned to leave, I called after him, voice shaking but sharp. Daniel.
He paused.
What? You remember that hospital visit I made a while back? What about it? That was for you, I said, smiling with something that wasn't quite humor. You may have money and a mistress, but one thing you'll never have is a child. Not your own. And certainly not with her. His face drained of color. But he said nothing. Just turned around and left. And in that moment, I didn't just feel betrayed, I felt free. After Daniel walked out and slammed the door behind him, the silence in the apartment was deafening. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the signed divorce papers on the table. The ink hadn't even dried yet, but everything already felt like ancient history. That night, I barely slept. I kept playing everything back in my head: the way he looked at me like a stranger, the way he dismissed our 10 years like a line item in a contract, the way his mistress acted like she was the rightful queen, and I was just some pathetic, aging extra in her fairy tale. But mostly, I kept seeing the way Daniel's face contorted when I told him the truth, that he was infertile and that I'd known all along. I could still feel his hands on my neck, and not in a memory I wanted to keep. The next day, I called a hospital and scheduled an IUD removal. I'd gotten it years ago, in secret, after I found out the test results. At the time, I thought I was protecting him, his ego, his pride, his sense of masculinity. I figured if I made myself infertile too, it would take the pressure off him, like we were in it together. Back then, I really thought that kind of sacrifice meant something. But now I realize it just made me invisible. It was a rainy Wednesday when I went to the hospital for the procedure. The doctor looked at my file, raised an eyebrow, and asked casually, "Planning to have kids soon?" I forced a smile. Just planning to stop punishing myself for someone else's broken promises. The procedure wasn't complicated, but the pain hit harder than expected. Not just physical pain, but the kind that gnawed at old scars and whispered, "See? This is what loyalty gets you." My forehead was damp with sweat as I limped out of the OBGYN wing, and right there in the hallway, like some cosmic punchline, I saw Daniel. He was holding Vanessa Blake's arm, supporting her as she waddled into the prenatal clinic like the glowing star of some romance novel. My first instinct was to look away, to leave before he noticed me, but curiosity, or maybe spite, glued my feet to the floor. I watched them walk into the office. The doctor greeted them warmly, glancing at Vanessa's chart. Yes, everything looks healthy. The fetus is developing well. Then the doctor glanced up, puzzled. "Are you the father?" "Yes," Daniel said proudly. "I'm the father." "Oh, I see," the doctor said slowly, like a light bulb had gone off. "I just assumed it was the other man who usually accompanies her to checkups." I swear I saw Vanessa flinch. Daniel's face stiffened. "Other man?" he asked, turning toward her. Her eyes darted toward me and froze, wide with panic. She knew I'd heard it too. "I had just a friend," she stammered. "My cousin, I mean." Daniel narrowed his eyes, but then he spotted me, and whatever suspicion was building in his mind vanished instantly as it was replaced with hostility.
"Claire," he snapped.
"What are you doing here?" He said it like I was stalking them. "Let me guess, you couldn't handle being called Baron, so you came to get that fixed?" I tilted my head and forced a sweet smile. Oh no, Daniel. I came to witness history or miraculous fatherhood. I glanced at Vanessa, who shrank under my gaze. You should ask her who's been taking her to appointments. I'm sure she'll give you a very creative answer. She pulled on his sleeve, whispering, "Let's go, baby. She's crazy." But Daniel didn't budge. He grabbed her hand and stepped toward me, his voice low and venomous. Don't you dare try to slander her. Vanessa's done nothing wrong. I couldn't help but scoff. Oh, please. She's practically sweating lies. But I didn't stick around to see if he would take the bait. I walked past them, head high, even if my legs felt like jelly. I didn't owe him anything anymore. Still, as I left the hospital, I heard him mutter behind me, "After the baby's born, she'll be crawling back to apologize." I smiled to myself. He had no idea. A few weeks passed. Daniel's image started popping up all over the news, candid shots of him taking Vanessa to Lama's classes, carrying her shopping bags, holding umbrellas over her head like some fairy tale dreamboat. Reporters labeled him as Father of the Year, romanticizing this affair like it was the love story of the decade. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. The man who tossed away a loyal wife for a walking scandal was now being celebrated for basic decency. Vanessa was glowing in all the photos, milking her 15 minutes of fame like a seasoned pro. And then the due date came. The hospital was swarming with media. Daniel looked nervous but proud, pacing in front of the delivery room like he was waiting for a royal heir. "Please, no cameras inside," he told the reporters. "This is a private family moment."
Yeah, sure.
The same man who couldn't keep his affair private was suddenly shy about the delivery. The reporters asked, "Are you hoping for a boy or a girl?" Daniel smiled like a love-struck teenager. "Doesn't matter, as long as it's healthy." The moment would have been perfect if it wasn't for the guy who suddenly stormed into the hallway, yelling at the top of his lungs. "My girlfriend's in there. Why can't I be with her?" Everyone turned. The man was red-faced, furious, and clearly not a random stranger. Daniel's expression dropped as the guy marched up and got in his face. "You slept with my girlfriend, and now you think her kid's yours? You want my baby to call you dad?" Reporters gasped. Cameras rolled. One of Daniel's assistants rushed over. "Sir, please stop, this is a misunderstanding." "Oh, really?" the guy snapped. "Then go ahead. Get a DNA test after the baby's born." "I'm not afraid." Daniel looked like he'd been hit by a train.
He didn't respond.
He just stood there, frozen, as reality crashed into him in full HD. And all I could think about was how poetic it was that the woman he threw everything away for had played him like a fool. I didn't even have to lift a finger. He dug his own grave and she handed him the shovel. The fallout was instant and delicious. The guy who claimed to be Vanessa's real boyfriend was a bluffing, stayed at the hospital all night, yelling at security, arguing with Daniel, and refusing to leave until someone proved him wrong. Of course, Daniel didn't agree to a paternity test on the spot. No. He tried to spin the moment, whispering to Vanessa behind closed doors while the media swarmed the hallways, reporters sniffing out the drama like sharks circling blood. But damage control doesn't work when the whole thing is caught on camera. Within hours, the footage went viral. Everyone saw Daniel Carter, the CEO of Carter Enterprises, being publicly confronted by a random man over the paternity of his mistress's child. Hashtags like "So Scandal," "Not the Daddy," and "Vanessa the Fraud" trended by morning. That polished, picture-perfect narrative of Daniel being the romantic family man? Completely obliterated. His publicist scrambled, of course, trying to issue statements, blocking footage, spinning new angles, but the damage was already done. Turns out, Vanessa wasn't just cheating on Daniel, she was practically running a two-man con with her actual boyfriend. The media did their homework real fast. It was like peeling back the layers of an onion made of lies. Reporters uncovered that Vanessa was just a broke university student in Riverdale who met Daniel at a networking event while on a break from her boyfriend. She played innocent, told Daniel she'd never been with anyone before, and when she got pregnant, she used her fake innocence and the timing of a missed period to convince Daniel the baby was his. Daniel, so desperate to be a father, so blind with ego, bought it instantly. She moved into his second villa within weeks. But the joke was on him. She never actually stopped seeing her boyfriend. Apparently, They hatched the plan to ride Daniel's money train, let the baby be born into wealth, and cash out in the form of hush money or child support. But they got too greedy. Vanessa played her part too well, and Daniel fell too deep. When her boyfriend finally snapped and went public, it was like watching a slow-motion explosion. I watched the entire thing unfold from my living room couch, sipping tea. The same man who tossed me aside like a used tissue was now the punchline of every meme on the internet. I didn't even have to lift a finger. But I knew what was coming next. Daniel would do another fertility test, one that he couldn't ignore or twist.
And he did.
He walked into the hospital with dark circles under his eyes and a blank expression on his face. This time, he didn't send an assistant. He picked up the report himself. And when he saw the word infertile stamped on the page, reality finally caught up with him. I wasn't there to see his expression in person, but I heard from one of the nurses that he sat alone on a bench outside the lab for over an hour, chain-smoking like a man who'd lost everything. He didn't even argue. Didn't call anyone. Just sat there, head down, broken. And that's when he remembered I'd been at the hospital a few weeks ago, the same day he'd proudly paraded Vanessa in front of me. He must have connected the dots, because he called his assistant immediately and said, "Find out why Claire came here last time." Meanwhile, I'd moved on.
For real this time.
With the divorce paperwork filed and finalized, and the money already wired to my account because heaven forbid Daniel risk me demanding more later, I did the one thing I'd always dreamed of. I opened a bakery. Yep, a little corner shop in the middle of downtown Riverdale. I painted the walls cream and gold, hung up fairy lights around the window, and started every morning covered in flour and sugar. I found peace in kneading dough, in the smell of rising cinnamon, in watching kids press their noses against the glass and smile at the pastries. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Mia came by often, always bringing gossip and her loud opinions. At first, she was furious on my behalf, always swearing revenge. But once I told her about Daniel's infertility, how I knew, how I'd protected him, how I even got an ID so he wouldn't feel ashamed, she softened. She stopped planning revenge and just sat with me in silence, occasionally gripping my hand as if words weren't enough. About a month after signing the divorce agreement, I went back to the hospital one last time to have the IUD removed. The doctor asked, again, if I was planning on having children, and I just smiled sadly and said nothing. It wasn't about babies anymore. It was about reclaiming my body, about no longer paying a physical price for a man who never deserved me. The procedure was fast, but the ache afterward was deep, almost symbolic, like something old was finally being scraped out of me. I wiped the sweat from my forehead, pulled my coat tighter, and walked out. And as fate would have it, I ran right into them again, Daniel and Vanessa at the same hospital. She was waddling, holding her belly dramatically, and he was supporting her with one arm. It was such a nauseatingly domestic scene, I almost turned around. But then I saw something different in Daniel's eyes this time. Not arrogance, not disdain, but wariness. And then confusion. And then panic. Because the doctor had apparently just said something. I stayed back, out of sight, but I could hear the voices echoing. "You're the father?" the doctor asked again. I just assumed it was the other man has been here every visit. Vanessa's face went pale. Daniel froze. And I smiled. She tried to play it off again, calling him a cousin or some neighbor doing her a favor, but Daniel wasn't buying it this time. He was already pulling away from her, his hand loosening from her arm, his eyes darting across the hallway and landing on me. "Claire," he said, his voice sharp. "What are you doing here?" I raised an eyebrow, calm as ever. "I could ask you the same thing. But congratulations, Daddy." "Don't push it," he growled. "Vanessa is carrying my child." I tilted my head. Still clinging to that dream? Huh? Even after everything that's come out? Vanessa tried to pull him away, whispering something frantic, but he didn't move. I walked past them slowly, but just before turning the corner, I said, "Some people spend their whole lives chasing a legacy. You? You were given loyalty and love and you traded it for a lie." I didn't look back. I didn't have to. I knew I'd hit the nerve. That was the day Daniel Carter finally realized he'd been played. And it was only going to get worse from here. After everything came crashing down, Daniel disappeared from the media for a while, like a scandalized CEO trying to pull together the last scraps of his dignity, but I knew better was licking his wounds, finally realizing that the empire he built on lies, manipulation, and image had turned against him. Vanessa's boyfriend went fully public, selling his story to every platform that would take it, proudly proclaiming that he and Vanessa had finessed the great Daniel Carter out of millions, that the baby was his and always had been, and that Daniel was just a gullible fool with a fat wallet and a bruised ego. The scandal hit Carter Enterprises like a wrecking ball. Stocks dropped. Partners pulled out. Investors questioned his judgment. Rumors started flying about Daniel's medical condition, and for the first time in his life, he didn't have the confidence or the facts to shut them down. Meanwhile, I was doing fine. Better than fine. The bakery was thriving. Mia had unofficially appointed herself as my brand ambassador, constantly tagging the shop on socials and dragging influencers in for free croissants in exchange for glowing stories. People started recognizing Menet just as the girl with the best cinnamon rolls in Riverdale, but as the ex-wife. The one he left. The one who kept quiet while everyone called her barren. The one who turned out to be right. I didn't say much publicly. I didn't need to. But one rainy evening, as I was closing up the shop, locking the shutters with my apron still tied around my waist and flowers streaked across my wrist, I noticed a figure standing across the street, holding a black umbrella. The way he stood, slightly hunched, motionless in the rain, was unmistakable. Daniel. I turned away immediately, pretending not to see him, and walked faster. But he crossed the street and caught up with me, grabbing my arm gently. "Claire," he said, his voice soft and unsure, like he wasn't used to begging. I yanked my arm back. "What do you want?" "Please," he whispered. "Let me talk to you." I laughed. "You want to talk now? After your mistress's boyfriend just ruined your career?" "It wasn't like that," he mumbled. "I didn't know that she was a liar, that she was sleeping with someone else the whole time, or that you're infertile and couldn't possibly be the father." He flinched. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracking. "Claire, I know I don't deserve anything, but I need you to know that I get it now. I know what I did to you. I know how I destroyed everything." And then, right there in the rain on the sidewalk in front of my bakery, Daniel Carter, the man who once thought he was invincible, dropped to his knees. I gasped. "What are you doing? Get up, this is insane." "Let me apologize," he begged. "Please. Let me earn back even a shred of your forgiveness." I shook my head, half in disbelief, half in pity. "Daniel, I don't need an apology. I needed one a year ago or 2 years ago when you started pulling away, when you stopped coming home, when you started looking at me like I was in your way." "I was wrong," he choked out. "I was so wrong." I crossed my arms. "And what now? You want to get back together? You want me to forget everything just because you finally realized the truth?" He looked up at me, rain dripping from his hair, eyes red. "I filed to reverse the divorce. If you agree, we can cancel it before it finalizes." I laughed so bitterly it startled him. "You think this is about papers? You think this is about timing? Daniel, I'm not your backup plan." He stood slowly, soaked and defeated. "Then what do I do?" I stepped back. "You go home. You move on. You live with what you did." After that night, he started showing up more and more, buying out everything in the bakery some days, sending ridiculous flower arrangements, ordering catering for non-existent company parties. He even left notes, the kind that used to make my heart flutter when I was younger. But now, all they made me feel was exhausted. He was trying so hard to rewind time, but I wasn't the same girl anymore, and he damn sure wasn't the same man. Then came the most embarrassing stunt of all. Decorated the entire sidewalk in front of my shop with heart-shaped candles and stood in the middle holding a bouquet of perfect red roses. And I'll admit, for a second, my heart cracked. Because it reminded me of when I was 18 and he confessed to me for the first time outside our dorm. He had scraped together money to buy 9 roses, used his last savings to buy tea-light candles, and shouted my name with that same nervous grin. Back then, I thought it was the most romantic thing in the world. But that was before he made me believe I was worthless, before he betrayed me, before he told me I was broken for not giving him a child he couldn't physically have. So no matter how many roses he bought now, or how perfect the petals were, it didn't matter. Because sincerity can't be recycled. And at 30, it doesn't hit the same as it did at 18. The crowd around him that day thought they were watching a grand proposal. Someone even clapped. But I just walked past him without a word. "Claire," he called after me. "Can't you just give me one chance?" I stopped and turned around slowly. "A chance? Daniel, you're lucky I'm not suing you for emotional abuse." His face dropped. The whispers from the crowd started to grow. "Wait, is that Daniel Carter? The CEO? That's his ex-wife, right? Didn't he cheat with a student? And then the baby wasn't even his?" The buzz grew louder, people pulled out their phones, and I realized what was about to happen. "Let's not do this in public," Daniel pleaded. I narrowed my eyes. "You didn't seem to care about privacy when you let Vanessa call you baby on speakerphone in front of me." He swallowed hard. "I'm sorry." "Don't say that unless you mean it," I said flatly. "And even if you do, it doesn't change anything. Go home, Daniel." And I left him standing there, surrounded by candles, people, and humiliation. Again, we finalized the divorce on a surprisingly sunny day, the kind of sunshine that almost made you forget you'd once cried over someone who didn't deserve your tears, and the whole thing was over in under 5 minutes. A stamp, a signature, and suddenly 10 years of my life were reduced to an official document I didn't want to keep. Daniel looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. His once sharp cheekbones were hollowed out, his expensive suit hanging loosely from his frame, and for the first time since I met him, he didn't walk like he owned the world. He stood in front of me as we left the courthouse, shoulders slumped, hands awkwardly in his pockets, not saying a word while a growing crowd outside started murmuring. Apparently, someone had leaked the news that Daniel Carter and Claire Bennett were finalizing their divorce that day, and people came out in droves, some out of curiosity, others with their phones already recording. At first, I thought they were here to witness the latest tragic chapter in our public drama, but then I realized the energy had shifted. The crowd wasn't here to pity Methy, were here to judge him. The insults came flying, first as whispers, then as full-on chants. "Scumbag, liar, cheater, you don't deserve her." Someone even threw a rotten egg, which splattered on the ground right near his feet. A wilted lettuce leaf hit his shoulder. He just stood there, taking it, like a man who finally understood that karma doesn't come when you expect it arrives when you least deserve the grace. I took a step to the side, far enough that no one would think we still had anything in common. His bodyguards eventually stepped in and helped clear a path, and before he could offer to give me a ride or suggest we talk over lunch or coffee or closure, I turned and walked away, head held high, not once looking back. But of course, Daniel couldn't let it go. He called that night and I ignored it. He texted the next morning and I deleted it without reading. But then he sent a message through Mia, asking if we could have one last meal together, not as husband and wife, but as two people who once loved each other. I almost said no. I should have said no. But part of me wanted to see how he would try to rewrite the ending. So I agreed. He picked the restaurant where we had our very first date, a tiny, tucked-away Italian place near campus that hadn't changed much in a decade. He didn't speak on the drive there. No small talk, no music, just silence thick enough to suffocate. When we arrived, he opened the door for me, out of some lingering habit of politeness, but I didn't thank him. The hostess recognized us immediately and seated us by the window, the same spot we used to sit when we were broke and in love, splitting one plate of pasta and pretending we were fancy. Now the lighting was softer, the prices had doubled, and the waitstaff had changed, but the memories hit me anyway. I stared at him across the table, waiting for the speech I knew was coming. "Claire," he finally said, voice quieter than I expected. "Do you think it's too late for people like me to change?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I cut into the expensive steak he ordered, chewed slowly, and swallowed. "Why?" I asked. "You planning to become someone else now that the world doesn't worship you anymore?" He flinched. "I just mean, I don't want to be remembered as the man who ruined you." I set my fork down. "Daniel, you didn't ruin me. You tried. You chipped away at me, gaslit me, belittled me, made me question my worth, but you didn't ruin me. I'm still here. I'm doing better than ever. You're the one sitting in the ruins." He nodded, eyes downcast. "I know. Do you?" I asked, leaning forward. "Because all I see is a man who regrets being exposed, not a man who regrets what he did. That's not true, he whispered. I think about it every day. About how you always stayed by my side, even when I was nothing. How you tore up that report, so I wouldn't feel less than a man. I found out everything about the IUD, about your visits to the hospital, even about how you never said a word while I blamed you for my own shame. And he broke off, voice shaking. I hate myself for it. I sat back, feeling oddly calm. Then learn from it. Be a better man for whoever comes next. Just don't look for redemption in me. He nodded, slowly. I wrote you out of my will, he said. But then I added you back in. The shares. The house. Everything. It's all yours if you want it. I blinked, stunned. You did what? I know money doesn't fix anything, he said quickly. But it's what I have. It's what I owe you. You helped build Carter Enterprises. You were there for every late-night pitch, every panic attack, every failure. I can't erase what I did, but I can give you what you rightfully earned. I didn't know how to respond, so I said nothing. After dinner, he drove me back to the bakery. Before I got out of the car, he looked at me one last time. Claire, I won't bother you again. Thank you, I said quietly. I went inside, locked the door, and watched through the window as he drove off, his car disappearing into the night. The next morning, I woke up to headlines that stopped my heart. Daniel Carter, CEO of Carter Enterprises, found dead after apparent accident at Lover's Lake. The details were vague, but the story was clear enough. Gone back to our college campus, sat on the bench overlooking the lake where we once dreamed about the future, and sometime that night, he slipped into the water and never came back up. Surveillance showed him pacing, looking out across the still surface, holding something in his hand later revealed to be a small box with a ring inside. One he must have bought before everything collapsed. A ring I would never wear. Some people said it was an accident, that he was drunk, that he lost his balance. Others whispered suicide. Mia messaged me the moment it broke. Good riddance, she wrote. God doesn't let men like him walk away clean. But even as I told her she was right, I couldn't help the ache that bloomed quietly in my chest. Because I'd loved him. Because he was my first. Because I wanted justice, not tragedy. That afternoon, I opened the drawer in my nightstand and pulled out the simple, silver ring he gave me when we were first married, the one without diamonds, the one he bought with borrowed money and a hopeful heart. I hadn't looked at it in months. But that day, I held it like a piece of history, a memory sealed in tarnished metal. I never replied to his last message. But I saw it, hours after he died. A single line, unsent, still glowing on my screen. Dear Claire, only death can separate my heart from wanting to be close to you. He deleted it before I could respond, like he wanted to keep it between us. And I guess that's where it will stay, between the love we once had and the life I now live. People eventually forgot his name, the scandals, the noise.
But me?
I got better. I lived. I healed. And I never looked back.